You know, the essence of the mental game is this. The only reason the event matters is because we make it matter. Welcome to the Mullins Farrier podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Welcome, everyone. As you probably noticed from the intro, some things are going to be a little askew in today's episode. Before we start, a few shopkeeping items. First of all, my fellow podcaster and the infamous farrier educator, Dr. Simon Curtis, has been putting on some great webinars over the past few years. I have found them to be very informative and their content applicable to my day-to-day shoeing. For a limited time, Simon is offering a discount to listeners of this podcast. If you enter MULLINS, all caps, as the discount code at checkout, you'll get 20% off the ticket price for the next webinar. I have found that even if I couldn't make the time for the actual webinars, my tickets entitled me to videos of them later that I could watch at my leisure. Dr. Simon's next webinar is a live dissection with Mitch Taylor and will take place on the 23rd of April. You can find the link to purchase tickets to this event on Simon's website at drsimoncurtis.com. It's under the calendar section. That's drsimoncurtis.com, all one word. Also, some exciting news. A former guest, Heather Beauchemin, has written a fantastic book for horse owners. It's titled The Hoof Book, A Horse Owner's Guide to Demystifying Hoof Care. It debuted at number 1 in new releases in the equestrian sports category on Amazon. This book could be your best way to quell those questions you get from those clients who like to go online and look up a thing or two about how to shoe horses. I believe that properly informed clients can make some of the best clients. So if you're thinking of getting multiple copies to give to clients, reach out to Heather online and she can offer you a volume discount on orders over 10 books. You can find Heather Beauchemin's book on the Amazon app or online at amazon.com. Now for today's episode. Many of my guests have said that they weren't sure why I had asked them, of all people, to do an interview. Today's guest is no exception. When Chris Gregory suggested an episode where he interviewed me, I was hesitant at first, and then after I said yes, Chris made sure to make me nervous about the event every time we spoke. He also reached out on social media asking if people had questions for this interview. Some I actually had the opportunity to see in the responses to one of his posts, but most of the others, including his own questions, I did not. A few months later, we were able to sit down in the Heartland, in the room where it all started, with Chris being my very first guest. As you will hear, Chris is a natural interrogator, interviewer, and we had a lot of fun. Keep an ear out for Chris's latest project, as he is starting his own podcast called Final Approach with Chris Gregory. While he plans on interviewing some farriers, Chris's focus will be on professionals from all walks of life. Anyway, here goes. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. I have Mr. Brian Mullins, the amazing Mr. Mullins in the hot seat. I've been listening to this podcast since it started, and I thought I'd change the format a little bit. First of all, I want to let you guys know where we are. We are in the room where he did his first podcast. And,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. He is sitting here in his smoking jacket. We're a little bit delayed. The most interesting man in the world just called Brian for some love life advice, and so that put us behind a little bit. I'm so happy that he is not wearing his Hugh Hefner robe. That was always a little distracting, but his brandy is the proper temperature, and so we're about ready to roll with this interview. So I met Brian over a decade ago. I know he always gives you people's whole history, but I'm just going to give you my history of Brian. So a little over a decade ago, I was in Canada, and Brian was there and asking questions. We got to know each other a little bit. Later on, he came to the Heartland, and he's been here. Well, I claimed him on my taxes a couple of years ago, so he's been here a lot.
As a dependent.
Yeah. That was a joke. Thank you. Brian it's been incredible. He's one of those guys that you just feel like you've known forever. Everybody likes him. You can't help yourself. In fact, that's why you keep listening to this podcast. And watching his meteoric rise through this industry has just been quite a thrill. So when I first met him, I saw that he was an absolute perfectionist, and he knew the standard he wanted. He wouldn't compromise it. He just didn't know how to get it very fast, but he could get it. And so now that he's doing it fast, his work is amazing. So we're going to start out. How would you describe yourself, Brian? Would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I started out as an introvert.
You did?
Yes. And I was quite nervous around people, but then I ended up in a job, kind of in between jobs, selling horse trailers, and it was sink or swim. I had to learn to talk to strangers and approach them and make small talk and do all those things. So that brought me out of my shell. And after 5 years of doing that, I actually started horseshoeing.
And were you pretty successful at that?
Yeah, I earned a living. Yeah, it was.
So are you talking like a bachelor living on ramen noodles living, or could you have had a wife?
Probably more of the bachelor style.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
But it was an interesting transition into the shoeing from that, because I met all these different horse people, learned how to talk to them. And yeah, it really helped.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no doubt. Well,
Good job today.
Salesmen that are successful are likable. And so
Right.
that's probably helped you your whole life. So I don't know if you guys know, but Brian, he shoes in places where the billionaires have chased out the millionaires. And so keeping that clientele is it's a little bit high stress. It's like you're a first-class chef on a yacht every time you shoe a horse, isn't it?
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So being likable has been a big part of that. So if you were thinking back on your youth, what is one of your favorite childhood memories? What happened to you as a kid that was like, man, that should happen to every kid?
Huh. All of these questions are, just so everybody knows, just coming out of the blue at me as we sit here.
Yeah. No, I've been preparing them for a while, folks, and I did not share.
No. I don't know. I think every kid should work on a farm.
Okay.
At some point.
So was this your folks' farm?
Grandpa's? No. So we worked on, my great aunt and uncle had a farm, and I think from 10 or 11, we would help them with hay. We went there in the summers, and we would usually end up there during hay or straw season, and we would end up helping. And then that was my first job. I biked up and down my road and asked all the farmers in the area if they needed help, call me. So I was a pretty popular kid during hay season.
Oh, man. So you were destined to be in the country.
Yeah, for
the
sure.
country is in you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Wonderful. Now, I know this is a farrier podcast, so you farriers are out there wondering, if we could tell you what size to cut for your next horse or something. You're not going to get that for a while. We're going to just get to know the amazing Mr. Mullins here. So what do you think people misunderstand about you the most?
Misunderstand?
Yeah, like they look at Brian and you're like, I'm really a complicated lover or something,
I think a lot of people misunderstand my jokes if they don't land well. I don't know. I think in the past, I had a few people, when I started doing the podcast, I had a few people in my area that thought I heard the word showboater.
Oh, okay.
And
That's definitely not you. I would have never thought of you showboating.
yeah, well, I think they thought I was doing it from a sort of a selfish vantage. And I hope it's apparent that that was not the case. And
Okay, so why did you do it?
I really wanted to share the stories of farriers, especially we all end up having the same experiences with clients. We were just talking at dinner about when you get fired from a client and even years into your career and you can still get fired. And even asking people like Dave Farley about an experience when he got fired. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's unavoidable.
Yes. And I wanted to share that experience. And we also talked about this, that there can be a tendency for us to get isolated, or some of us to get isolated. And I felt this was a good way to bring a community together, especially in this particular platform where we're always in vehicles driving around.
Yep.
So it was just kind of a neat place to present people's stories and learn from each other.
Well, just so you guys know, I've known Brian long enough to guarantee you that he is not a showboater. All right, excellent.
One other point, though, on the another reason I do it is I really like to encourage people to pursue more in the career.
Absolutely.
Because I saw how much it helped me. Like, since coming to the blacksmithing course here, that next October, I was here for the certification course. And that whole journey sent me on a completely different trajectory and changed my work life and my life. So,
and the podcast is a way for you to help other farriers
exactly
get a little bit of that.
Yep.
And maybe pursue it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. How did you meet your significant other? She's likely to be listening, so don't mess this up.
Well, she would say she knew my dog long before she knew me because she worked for a vet clinic. She's a registered vet tech, and she worked for a clinic it's a multi-vet practice in our area. So if she was working with the particular vet that was at the barn I was at that day, Buster would usually come over for a visit, and then I would follow. Yeah, she actually came to the farrier convention one of the years because the vet that she was working for, a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Andrea Dubé, who I've interviewed.
Oh, yeah. She's been on here.
Yeah. She actually came for that. And yeah, it's just over time, we just became close.
So I asked that question basically so that you ladies out there would know that he's not available. It's not easy going somewhere public with this guy, just so you know. You're like the ugly girl, you know. All right. So what do you think has been your biggest failure? If you were to look back and say, man, that's one thing I really dropped the ball on.
I would think career-wise, it would probably be that I didn't stay competing and didn't hang out with more CJFs and people who were really into forging.
In the early days.
In the early days of my career, yeah. And then in life in general, I wavered for a long time because I didn't know what I wanted to do until I found this. And I can't change that, but I think I would have educated myself even more, I think. Once I got into this career, there was so much education that I could follow and chase. It would have been nice to have been on that path sooner.
Okay. All right. So what is the biggest compliment anyone's ever given you?
Huh.
How are you liking my questions?
Yeah. These are reaching deep.
Well, yeah. So you guys are probably familiar with the stratum externum of the stratitorium. We're doing the stratum internum. Now, we're not quite to the sensitive laminae. But
I haven't cried yet.
We could get to the sensitive laminae. We got the political and religious questions coming up.
Oh, great. It could get heated in here. One of them that just stuck out recently was I had 2 clients in one day that said, "Thank you so much for caring about my horse."
All right.
And then another, it's sort of a general one. I wouldn't want to forego anybody's privacy, but I've had so many messages after doing this podcast from people who they would just send me a personal message on Facebook telling me either that they'd been inspired to start the certification process, start the path to becoming a farrier, or some of them who've said that, their careers were starting to falter and this had changed things for
Motivated them.
Yes. And just that there are certain guests that will speak to certain people, and all of a sudden I will get several messages. And that has been like, you get the feels when you get those messages.
I bet you could get a lot of them from this one. Yeah. All right. So what is the biggest insult you've ever received?
I feel like all of these end up being directed towards career, but I am very career focused.
Yes, that's a fact.
So anytime that a client has accused me of doing something wrong, if I have done something wrong, I would admit it. But if they've worded it in a way that I have done harm to their horse on purpose or something like that,
wow,
that you're not shoeing them correctly, I'm always so focused on doing everyone to the standard that I want that I find that quite offensive.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think our clients understand how much of what we do we take home with us.
Oh, yeah. It's not a job, it is identity, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. In fact, you kind of introduce yourself like, "Hi, I'm Brian, a horseshoer." You don't say, "Oh, I'm Brian. Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, yeah, it's very much that kind of trait."
Yeah.
All right. So if your parents were here, how would they describe you 41 years into your life? What would they think about you? What would they say?
I think they're proud. I think they're happy I found that career that I was looking for. And just, I know my dad listens to this podcast in the garage, and my mom listens to it when she gets a chance to in the house. But we got him a Bluetooth speaker for his birthday so that he could hear it better while he's working out in the shop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I guess proud would be a lot of my work ethic I got from them, and they always encouraged me to do whatever it was that was going to make me happy. My mom wanted me to go to school and try that, and I did 1 year of university. And when that wasn't for me, she was completely happy just that I had tried. And
cool.
So they've always been encouraging that way.
Well, that's good. That's really good to have your folks be happy with you. All right. So of all the jobs you've had before horseshoeing, which was your least favorite?
We had to go to the yearling sales and present the yearlings for people when they would come around and want to look at a particular one. I don't know. Some of them were pretty difficult to handle.
The people or the horses?
A little of A and a little of B.
All right. But that was not a fun job, huh?
No, I didn't enjoy it. No.
All right. So outside of farriery, who are the most influential people in your life? Or who were they if it's no longer part of it?
It would be Harold, who I worked for on the farm, Harold McDonald. He taught me a lot, and he was very patient with me. I was a young kid who daydreamed a lot, so I would make mistakes.
How young a kid?
I started when I was 12.
Okay.
With him.
All right. So Harold was letting you work on the farm at 12. Huh?
Yeah. I guess the labor laws weren't in place then. And
they were in place. Yeah, Harold's they're going to have some Gestapo from Canadian.
Look out,
police
Harold.
force.
Run. And then Bill Cato, who was my judo coach.
Oh.
Yeah. I was terrible at judo. But
you got good, right? You were
towards the end, I got good. But for a great deal of my life, I was that awkward kid that grew way too fast. And the message from my brain never reached the limbs, which isn't great when somebody else is trying to trip you up. So,
yeah.
And
you're like, what, 6'3" now?
No, 6'1".
6'1"?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Nope.
No.
Okay. I guess if I've been laying down for a while, I might be a little longer.
All right. Well, I thought I was 6'1". I think you're taller than me, so I don't know.
Oh, I think you're taller than me. I thought.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe it's the hat.
Maybe
it's my hair.
It may be the hair, ladies and gentlemen. He has got a lustrous mane, which my mustache is better than his. But...
No, that's true. I will grant you that.
All right. So what is your morning routine? What do you do first thing every day when you're home?
It's not a great one, and it's actually something that I've wanted to work on. because lately it's been more of a wake up. I'll usually read a bit of the news on my phone, or I try to, but I don't always check whose birthday it is and try to send them messages if I know them through Facebook, and a coffee, an espresso coffee. And then we usually put whatever supplies, once whoever's working with me arrives, we put the supplies in the truck.
So we're talking bed, and then straight to news, straight to coffee, and then you're putting supplies in the truck?
Yeah.
So what time are you rolling out of bed?
6:30.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The way you said that with the question mark, I also questioned it.
Oh,
The
really?
6:30?
Well, you think it's earlier or later?
Of course.
No. And then kind of a funny fact is, for breakfast, I usually eat an entire almost 1 liter container of yogurt mixed with some kind of granola.
And are you eating that on the road then?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, Brian.
So I usually arrive with yogurt all over me, and Buster the dog in the back, he quite enjoys the remnants of whatever yogurt is left in the container, and that's our routine.
Okay, I'm glad.
But that keeps me going until lunchtime, and most stuff will not. So
Okay, awesome. And do you do lunch at noon, or do you work past that?
noon to 1.
Okay.
We never used to, but we actually started stopping and having a lunch and then starting back up again.
So if you could live anywhere in the world, no worries about cost or government or government would be a part of it, but where would you live if you could live anywhere in the world?
I think I'd probably still live in Canada.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you're living where you would live if you could live anywhere, then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you could have coffee with a dead historical figure, who would you like to sit down and have a 30-minute conversation with?
I feel like there could be a lot of them. Lincoln would actually be one that I'm fascinated with him.
I would say he's probably top 10. Most people would probably have him in the
Right.
list. Yeah.
Yep.
And you're talking about Abraham.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Just making sure.
Is there another Lincoln? Yeah. Abraham Lincoln, and I mean, even Ford. Henry Ford would be interesting to talk to.
So what we are here right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the bonus rounds. I only needed one, but I got two for the price of one. Excellent job.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Oh, man. Yeah, yeah.
the Sherlock Holmes
Yep.
author.
Yeah, very interesting, that guy.
Yeah.
All right. So in school, what was your favorite subject?
Music.
Music?
Yeah.
Is it because of the teacher or just your interest in the subject?
Just my interest in the subject. I took it for a very long time.
All right. And what instruments do you play?
So I started as a young kid playing piano, and then through school, all the saxophones were taken. So I ended up with clarinet
Oh, my.
and played that all the way through high school and in a country band.
A
Afterwards,
clarinet
yeah.
in a country band. So out of curiosity, what country?
Well, we focused mostly on polkas. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And then a little bit of guitar, drums. Yeah.
And do you
Respect.
sing as well?
Sort of.
All
Yeah.
right. That's very
Depends
interesting.
on who you ask.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I suppose beauty's in the eye of the beholder. huh?
That's right. Yeah.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Hmm.
Questions that are out of the blue.
Yeah. Oh, man. Just when somebody litters.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I see somebody throw trash out a window when they're driving, nothing gets me more amped.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. What is the favorite trip you've ever been on?
Paris.
Paris?
Yeah.
How long were you there?
Just for a week.
Oh, yeah. Was
Yeah.
it just a tour with a loved one, or was it
Yeah.
working?
Yeah. And just touring around, and just there's so much history there. All of Europe I would like to visit at some point, but that was my starting point. And yeah,
And
I
of course, you
enjoyed
speak
it.
French because you're from Canada, right?
A petit peu. A little bit.
Could you get along?
Yeah. I mean, Paris has changed and learned to embrace their tourist industry.
Yeah, they didn't used to.
No, I know.
Yeah,
And
they used to
had-
be kind of like I was at the de Gaulle airport, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, but man, they wouldn't even bring you coffee if you didn't know how to ask it in
Right,
French. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know enough to get by. And once they heard that, they were always super polite and helps me stutter and stammer my way through the language.
Nice. If you won $10 million tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
what would you spend it on?
This is going to sound like I'm trying to, I don't know, make myself sound better, but I actually would try to find some effective charities for most of that. Easy come, easy go. I'd keep a small portion of it, but I would, yeah.
Would you continue to work as a horseshoer?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
so farrier you wouldn't change. You'd just pass the money through more or less.
Yeah.
Maybe put together a nest egg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
There's this group called the Effective Altruism Group, and I've learned about this through a couple of podcasts, and they have, now I'm not saying I'm doing this yet, but where they donate 10% of their income, they make this pledge, and there's a list of charities where the money actually does go to the victims as opposed to into overhead for whoever's running the charity. And yeah, that just kind of intrigues me. I feel like there's a lot that could be done in the world that I haven't done it yet.
In the church, they call it tithing. You
Right.
tithe 10%.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So if you were to write a book, what would you write about?
I've had a few ideas. I don't know. I don't want to share them here in case I do them later.
Fair enough. Hey,
Yeah.
Well, that's fair enough.
But inspired by one of my biggest mentors who's sitting across from me right now,
Oh yeah.
I would like
There's
to
a
do.
bald mustache man who's been antagonizing me with questions.
But we already talked about how good that mustache is.
Yeah.
Writing, I think, is the next step I would like to take.
Yeah, well, I
And-
read your article that you did for the AFA convention.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
it was. Did you write that, or
Yeah.
no one wrote that for you? Huh?
No, yeah.
So when I first started writing for the Farriers Journal, I had several farriers like, "So Chris, does Kelly write all those articles for you?" It's like, why? Well, you shoot horses. You can't really be smart enough to write. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. And I would like to write a novel at some point too, maybe.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. And if you were going to be remembered for one thing, what would you want that to be?
Helping people out.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, you help a lot of people. He has helped so many Heartlanders. It's unbelievable. And if your enemy wrote a book, what would the title about you? What would the title of that book be?
What would the title be? This is tough. Holy jeez. It's funny because Chris is actually getting more nervous than I am. He's rocking in the chair much more severely.
I'm just trying to hide the pain.
What would it be? The Showboater.
The Showboater. Okay. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move into some farrier business type questions.
Sure.
What is one thing about your business that you did not expect? What before you started, if you're looking at a horseshoeing, you say it's going to be like this, and then you got in and you're like, wow, it's not like that. What was the biggest one of those that you could come up with?
How many opportunities the job itself presents?
Oh, that's a
If you're open to
fantastic
them.
answer. Yeah, because you shoe for everybody, right? So you'll have the best hairdresser in town and the best lawyer in town, maybe the best divorce lawyer in town, the best knee surgeon. Yeah, yeah. I'd say that's a really good one. So, what is a common myth about horseshoeing that a lot of people that don't shoe horses don't know?
It's probably what you alluded to earlier about people thinking that you're not a writer or
Yeah, you're
just
strong
some guy.
mind,
Yeah.
weak back, or vice versa. Weak mind, strong back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That is, yeah, okay. So, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing right now in your business, and how are you tackling it?
The biggest one is running a business in a profitable way where you, so I think as my career took off, I didn't really pay much attention to how many leaks there were in my canoe. And I did not have a business background and didn't really focus. I would just earn the money and it would come in and go out, and I wasn't saving for retirement, and I was just making a lot of silly mistakes continuously. So that is one thing through my association with Andrew DeVisser, who we've
he's very on a podcast. He wrote a book about this.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Which you can also find in audio format.
Oh yeah. Just a quick little shameless plug here. A lot of people say, "Hey, Chris, I read your book cover to cover." Brian's the only one that can prove it.
That's right. And Heather, who edited it, she can definitely confirm that.
She's done it cover to cover. Yep. And there was a lot of beans in there that we didn't even know about.
Oh, yeah.
But we've all been there.
Apparently, it's a thing that we Canadians say that I wasn't even aware of.
And how are you tackling that problem with the leaking canoe?
Just through keeping better track of my expenses. I hired a bookkeeper. I hired somebody else to do my invoicing for me because it was always something that I would lag behind on because I was just getting home super late and starting up early the next day. And clients don't like it when they get doubled up on their bills, or the longer it takes you to invoice them, it's actually a statistically proven fact that they will take longer to pay you.
Oh,
that's one of those things. So,
all right.
That is something and started putting more money towards retirement and those things.
So you're looking at the big picture a little bit different.
That's right. Yeah.
So in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait that a farrier must possess?
I feel like it's more than one. I think you have to have several. You have to have an innate curiosity because that will help you to become a better farrier. You have to be willing to talk with clients. Unfortunately, even if you're not a people person but you're very good at your job, you have to be able to talk to the people who are going to sign the check. And I think calmness is a thing.
For being around horses or just
both?
So the horses and the people.
Yeah. And Dave Showen, he gave a couple examples in his conversation. He had an opportunity to get amped up and didn't.
Yep.
And was better for it. And there are times where when I look back, I think, man, I should have just been cool there. And
I have never seen you amped up.
Maybe I'm better at hiding it down here.
Okay. All right. Well, I haven't seen you sober either, so maybe that's just a joke. Just a joke. All right. So I asked you for only one there, and you gave me three.
Yeah.
All right. So this time I just want one. Give me one piece of advice you'd give to somebody that's starting as a horseshoer.
If you've already gone to school, or if you're not planning on going to school, find a very good mentor. And if you're looking for that mentor, Chris had this very conversation with me when I drove him back from the clinic to the hotel that first time we met. Find somebody who is a CJF or pursuing that path or an equivalent elsewhere in the world, because those are the people you want to partner up with and learn from.
All right. So what is a lesson you have learned from being a farrier that you think everybody from every walk of life should learn? I told you, stratum and internum.
That everyone should learn. I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is to go back to that. Know your ABCs. Always be cool.
Always. So calmness.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah.
There's ABC.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the most underrated tool that helps us do our job?
Interesting. Well, Andrew talks about it a lot, as in the rasp, because of how much money we spend on it without realizing.
Okay.
So that would be one, but I think probably the one that I have struggled with, but is the king of kings if you're putting on horseshoes, is the horn and the anvil.
There you go. I was going to go with the horn of the anvil for my answer. If somebody had asked me that question, I'd say a round horn.
Yep.
And knowing how to use it is probably
for sure.
It's going to be at the top couple anyway.
Yeah.
Excellent answer. All right. So if you could start a different self-employed business tomorrow, what would it be?
Music recording.
Oh, yeah. All right. What do you think the farrier world is going to look like in 5 years?
I think in 5 years it will be roughly the same as it is now in many ways, but I do see this strong push for people to become certified or more educated. I feel like more and more people are going to be going to more clinics.
Okay.
But I also think that I have a feeling there's a little bit of a lack of farriers versus horses.
I don't think it's a little. If
Okay.
you owned a school, 5 calls a week, people say, hey, you got a farrier? Hey, you know a farrier? Hey, I need
Really?
a helper. Oh,
Yeah.
man. The demand is huge. So what do you think it's going to look like in 50 years? What do you think our grandkids are going to be doing for shoeing horses?
Well, I hope the craft remains. I hope sometimes we see a lot of new technologies that are coming out that are supposed to make it easier, but I think you do lose a lot of that, the craft portion of it, which it's a trade and it's a craft. And I feel like there are a lot of fundamentals. I was never the forging person, that guy.
You are now.
I am now.
Yeah.
And it's in taking that journey that I've learned to appreciate how much that transfers to what I can do for the horses I work on.
All right.
There are a lot of things that I will do now that I wouldn't have attempted in the past just because it was beyond my skill level.
So what about the whole trade, though, in 50 years? Will they still be putting on metal shoes, or will everybody be...
I think so. But I think, though, by that point, I bet you we will be more regulated.
Oh, yeah. Good Lord willing, I hope you're wrong. Let's go, Brandon.
But I mean, the attempts have already happened with vets on both sides of the border. And I think the only response to that, and farriers are already starting to do it, is to make certification or have a minimum standard.
So this is an interesting thing, because this is something you and I disagree on.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Because you are for regulation, right?
Yes.
Yes.
For sure.
So for me, one of the things that I'm more conservative than probably a lot of people, and I'm for smaller government, not bigger government.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people get beat up by governing bodies for things that were unrelated to horseshoeing. There was a guy that lost his license to shoe horses because he had been doing badger baiting, and he got a cruelty to animals charge. They took away his license to shoe horses.
Really?
Yeah. So, if something like that could happen,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe in the beginning it's all horseshoers in charge and they're good guys, but what if 20 years down the road they say every horse must be shod with aluminum,
Mm-hmm. Right.
this or that, and it was now a law, and you couldn't shoe horses if you didn't do that. So that's one thing that scares me. And another thing that does bother me is that sometimes I see licensed people that believe that their license has actually given them a license saying that they're good, but the licensed body had to lower the standard to get, let's say, the barber to get his license.
Mm-hmm.
If a guy cuts my hair, he's not licensed, is it going to be that much worse than a guy that is licensed? I don't know. I don't know. I have some very strong opinions on this, and I heard one of your podcasts where you're for this,
Mm-hmm.
but it may just be a Canadian versus American thing too.
Well, I think of as a Canadian, our fellow people of the Commonwealth in England, and I don't think their minimum standard is low compared to some of the stuff that I've seen. Like when I hear the exams that the people have been through and the education that they have to do.
You should go to an average point-to-point race in England and look at the shoeing. It looks like the average team roping.
Really?
It's unbelievable.
Huh.
I expected the same thing when I went there the first time.
Right.
So what I find, Brian, is the guys that are going to be great are going to be great whether they have letters behind their name or not.
Right.
And whether or not they had great training to start with or not, they'll find a way to get it. And then there are other people that have every opportunity in the world. They maybe come from a family of farriers that are top level, and they've had every exposure and every opportunity, and you still wouldn't let them trim a borrowed donkey, right? And so I don't know. People are people. There are journeymen that don't do journeyman work.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are guys that don't have their journeyman certificate that would be able to do a journeyman job at 5:00 on Friday at the end of the week,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for me, the license is a piece of paper that gives the horse owner and gives the public something to beat the horseshoer up with,
Right.
in my humble opinion.
Right.
And you do know what they call the person that graduates dead last in vet school, right?
Doctor.
They still call them doctors. So. All right. So there was our little political part of this. You can so hopefully you guys can decide to hate one of us, and
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, we're appealing to the whole audience by our two opposing views. All right. So now this next section is going to be the sent in questions.
Okay.
So Lydia Gutierrez, she wants to know, how do you know you're charging a fair price for your job and for the extras?
That's an interesting question. There are a lot of variables that play into it for most of the people that I talk to about that. A lot of people try and find out what the other folks in the area are charging. They also try to find out where they stand in relation to the skill level of the folks in their area. Because if you are charging a lot, but your skill level doesn't justify that compared to the other options, it's just like any other free market product.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't going to go for yours. So I think that's one thing. And the extras that you provide, that too, you have to keep on top of that, because that is one thing. When we talked earlier about things in my business, me not paying attention, one of them was how much the products were costing me.
So you were like giving away pads now and then or stuff like that?
Yeah, or just not charging enough for all of them because compared to what they were costing me.
So the way you know is just better bookkeeping? Would that be your answer?
Yeah, better bookkeeping, and also just paying more attention to the costs of the products that we're stockpiling and then putting on feet.
All right. So Allie Carpenter, we all know the lovely Allie. She wants to know, how has your opinion of the farrier industry changed from before you starting the podcast? Because, so folks, if you don't know, if you go to convention or somewhere where there's a lot of horseshoers with Brian, they don't even have to see him. They hear his voice. People will turn around and say, oh my, I've been hearing that voice for a couple of years now. So then you're with a celebrity. So you had a very different exposure over the last couple of years now.
That's very true. But so it's interesting because in some ways I would think that gives me maybe more opportunities to have conversations with some people that I didn't think I would have. But most of those people, if you were just an average Joe walking through that convention hall and spoke to them, I have a feeling you would get a conversation with them. Yeah.
So has your opinion changed of the industry, or is it the same?
I think one opinion that has changed is just how I was kind of looking at farriery from maybe a Canadian or North American perspective. And now that I'm seeing it from a world perspective, we are all in the same game. There are differences, of course, but it's interesting how a lot of similarities cross international lines.
Very good. So Riley Guion, remember Riley?
Yo, I remember Riley.
I'm going to put my second shoe on in certification today. He wants to know how you keep the women off you.
Well, they might hear my voice, but then they see that I have the face for radio.
Oh, man. Not true. And then that smoking jacket, it just really...
Yeah.
Steph Cordy, I would ask Brian if he has been seeing a difference in what younger generations of farriers are interested in learning, if there is more enthusiasm.
I don't know. I feel like my perspective, I haven't been in it nearly as long as most. I'm only 13 years in, I think. So I don't know if I can really comment on that. I think the circles of people that I'm exposed to, yes, they are hungry for learning, especially because I see so many graduates of Heartland, and through the certification courses, I see people from 5-star and places like that.
And all those people are really motivated.
Yes. And when they've been inspired, you see them, they're the ones who go to the competitions, and you'll see them at almost every clinic or convention or event that they can get their hands on.
All right. So Robbie Miller, who was one of your guests.
Yeah.
He says he wants one thing. So he's asking for one thing, which, guys, if you haven't noticed, Brian's not good at the one thing. What is the one thing that you can take from all your podcasts?
I guess the one thing is no one has come from the exact same background, and it's pretty incredible. Every person that I've ever spoken to has had a very interesting story. So I guess the one thing that I've learned from all of it is that even the people that we don't even consider famous shoers or whatever, they all have a pretty good story to tell.
Okay. And he also wants to know how you stay looking so young.
Oil of Olay twice a day.
Oil of Olay twice a day. And his skin is buttery soft. So, Daniel Bennett.
Oh.
Yeah, you know Daniel. He says, Brian has one of the most listenable and relaxing voices I've ever heard. My question is, has this caused any accidents to any of his listeners while driving or operating whilst driving or operating heavy machinery?
I'm not aware of any, but that might be because of the accident.
All right.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. So Cody Harris was a Heartland grad. His brother Aaron is one that shoots the videos for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so he's the Aaron the filmmaker. So he wants to know, what is your story? We've done that. How did you get to start the podcast? And do you have any advice for an aspiring host?
The podcast was an idea that was floating around in my head. And it was a conversation I actually had with Andrea Dubé. We were out for a walk and I mentioned it and she got very stoked about it and really encouraged me to pursue it.
Okay.
So I did. And I have an audio engineering background. So I had a lot of equipment already sitting, collecting dust. So I blew that off and I had the perfect first few guests that were willing to go on. Some not even knowing what a podcast was at the time, but always saying yes to any opportunity that presents itself. So that's how it started. As a host, I would say there are a lot of costs involved that I wouldn't have expected in the first place. And there's a lot of work that the end result is always worth it. And I don't regret any of it, but you just have to be prepared for a lot of time and effort.
A lot of time and effort with very little financial. There's no.
Oh, yeah.
So the financial side of it's not been lucrative. It's not worth doing.
Yeah. From a financial perspective, yeah, it's not, you could say not worth doing, but that seems harsh. But all the other things that have come out of it, the networking and people I get to talk to, Danny Bennett and I, we talk once a month probably or more. A lot of cool friendships have come out of it.
The actual benefit to this is way beyond the money.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
right.
It's very fulfilling. I probably said that a million times in the podcast. But, and one other thing, getting guests sometimes is like trying to date people.
Oh, really?
I've had people stand me up. I've had people who wouldn't respond. I've had people who've responded and then ghosted. Like, it's
so this is my first podcast,
it's a chase.
And it was a little bit hard to get my guests for this one. I feel the pain.
He caught me sneaking out the back door.
All right. Simon Ablett. My question for Brian is, what's the number one best advice he's been given to get him where he is today in his career? And also what you couldn't live without your day to day. So there's a 2-part question from Simon. What's the best advice you got you here? And what is something that you can't live without? So you can even say cigarettes or whatever. You know.
Go to Heartland. That was, yeah.
Cool.
After meeting Elisa, who had just freshly graduated from the 8-week course many moons ago. Yeah. Just talking to her, and that was a big one.
Okay.
For sure. What I can't live without. I think it's just the overall skill set. I think that's one thing I've learned from hanging out with you guys. You can have some pretty shoddy tools and still make something work. I will blame something like a pair of tongs I've got or my anvil's not flat enough, and then Cody will just
Just so you guys know, Cody makes some really, really nice tools. So he's not talking about
No, not at all. No, just
Sometimes students show up with a pair of diamond tongs fit for 1/4 inch that we're trying to make a roadster out of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or a hammer with a sledge handle in it. Yeah. All right, excellent. Emilio Giannotti, he's the guy that actually did the book in Spanish.
right.
You've met Emilio.
Yes, I have several times.
Yeah, great guy.
He's going to be a guest if I can ever peg him down.
Yeah, no,
he can be a little elusive.
He'll be a great guest, and he'll want to do it in Spanish, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, senor. He wanted to know how you decided to start your journey toward certification, and having a busy practice. How did you manage to make time for clinics and practice?
So after going to the blacksmithing course, that's what got me. I think it might have been conversations with you and Cody that sort of sent me on that path. It had come up, and also a mentor at home, Sean Elliott. He was a CJF at the time, and he had just gone through that process, so that helped as well. He helped encourage that. And to find time, basically, I had a very busy practice, so the only time I had to practice was when I should have been sleeping. So
yeah, sleep faster.
Yep.
Okay.
So I sacrificed a lot of time, and you hear some people say, "Oh, I don't really have time," but I think if you feel it's important enough,
yes,
it happens.
Yes. A lot of successful people have shown how prioritizing can you prioritize your practice over sleep. Well, that pays dividends and also has a cost.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So he also wants to know, can I ask you when you're planning to visit Argentina?
I haven't had an invite yet, but hey.
Oh, all right. Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
I bet.
And full of great people. All right. So, Tanya Story, what product do you use on that glorious mane?
Wow. Can-2. It is. Yeah.
Can-2.
Yep.
Is this a serious answer?
This is a serious answer.
I've never heard of this.
And Andrew DeVisser, he stayed over one night, and he'd used the shower, and he came out and he said, "What is this wondrous stuff?" And I said, "That's the secret." Yeah, I'd found it in a Dollar Tree in the U.S. and Florida, and I prefer to use products that don't have a lot of parabens, and I mean, there's a bunch of words that I'm supposed to be aware of, and sulfates. So it ticked all the boxes, and man, has it been.
Is this a body soap or a
No, it's an actual so it's shampoo. And then they also have a curling cream.
I didn't think I'd get an answer. So Tanya, thanks for asking. All right. So, and how do you handle clients who interject their misinformed Google opinion about their horse's feet?
I try to educate them as best I can. There are certain people that you are never going to win that battle with, I have discovered. And you have to learn to let those people go.
Okay.
If you can prove your knowledge to the best of your ability, and the only way you can do that is to actually learn the stuff and be able to speak it, it goes a long way. But there are certain people who are always going to check Dr. Google instead. So,
Logan LaFontaine, what do you have or use in your rig? So I guess maybe your big ticket items, like what kind of forge or anvil or...
Well, I have a Fletcher Forge and Tool Forge made by Andrew DeVisser.
Okay.
An Emerson anvil.
Emerson, yeah.
Yeah.
You had that a while?
Yes, I have, yeah. I have one, so I have two rigs, one that stays in Florida and one that stays up north in the winter. And the anvils all have names. And so there's Little Emma, and the big one in the shop is Esmeralda, and Emily, I think, is the other one.
Oh, so they're all female.
Yeah.
And the first one's Little Emma?
Yeah.
So they all start with E as well?
Yes, exactly.
Is that
Emerson.
For Emerson.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave Showen, he wants to know, what is your opinion on the number one thing that you've learned from your podcast? So I guess this is kind of Robbie's question as well. The number one thing you've learned from your podcast?
Everybody has a story. Yeah.
And Kim Broad, he's a examiner, a fitz examiner from Australia. Your take on the future of our industry, and I think we covered that with our 5 to 50 years. And then Sam Zaleski, he's a Heartland grad, Yosemite Sam. And he says, there is something unique about Heartland Horseshoe School. What makes it so unique to you?
What makes it unique to me? I don't know. I just feel like coming here is like hanging out with family. Now.
So you feel part of you're a Heartlander.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people feel that way. We try to make them feel that way.
Yeah. No, and definitely you run into each other elsewhere, and there's just that immediate shared experience bond. Yeah.
And nobody really understands it until you've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
you can watch the videos, you can hear about it, but you haven't been there. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I think is part of that is that I could be wrong, but a lot of your teaching seems to be based on an sort of a military style instruction.
Yeah.
And part of it is you don't make it easy.
Nope.
There's a struggle that you have to work your way through. And then, I mean, in the middle of it, you get quite frustrated. I remember the first time at the blacksmithing course making those horseshoe sandwiches, and I was getting ready to apply at the McDonald's down the street and give up coming home as a farrier. But yeah, it's through the struggle, everybody kind of bonds together. And it every time I come here, there's a whole group of people, and pretty much 90% of them, if not all become like close.
Yep.
During that course.
Fast.
Yes.
Fast.
Yep.
All right. So now before we get to the fast answers, one last question. Is there a question that I haven't asked you that you wished I had?
I don't think so.
All right.
You covered a lot of bases there.
We covered some ground, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the stratum externum, stratum tictorium.
This portion of the podcast is called the stratum tictorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy.
All right. Your favorite book, most gifted to others?
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Okay. I've heard you mention that several times.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Sapiens, though. You've been Sapiens here lately.
I think I've said it twice.
Okay.
No, that's a good one too. But
I might have listened to your podcast twice.
Yeah. But no, that one was good. And Tribe of Mentors is pretty good.
Tribe of Mentors.
Tim Ferriss.
Oh, yeah. He's a good writer.
Yeah. It's a compilation of a bunch of people's. I'm surprised it's not on your shelf, actually.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Tim Ferriss over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a bunch of different answers from high achievers in the world, various jobs.
Your favorite brand of nails?
I am on the fence right now, so I don't have one.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been using one for quite a while, and I've had some badly pitched nails that have cost me some hassle, and it's happened too much, so I'm looking.
Okay. Well, we're not going to name names here.
No, we're not.
And what size of shoes do you generally have to stock the most of?
If it was based on the Kirkart sizing, it would be 2s and 3s in fronts and hinds.
All right. So, and based on the Japanese Izumi sizing?
I'm not aware.
All right. Favorite make of rasp?
Is the furred hoof plane.
Yeah, those things are really kind of cool, huh?
They are, yeah.
Have you had one that was straight out of the box?
Straight out of the box?
Yeah, like straight.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I had several that were warped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, have you not had that?
Usually after a horse has stepped on them, but maybe I should check when they're out of the box.
Yeah, but you know what? It was weird because they would have a little bit of a wave to them, and they're so light that you can
bend it.
You can bend them pretty easy.
Yeah.
But they still shaved the feet like it was pretty unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can sharpen them multiple times.
Yeah, they're an interesting rasp.
Yeah.
They don't really hold up well in school situations because, students are rasping a lot of metal and stuff. It's such an expensive thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do they cost for you guys up there?
I think now they're about $80 to $100.
Okay. Canadian.
So, yeah.
All right. So cheaper than I thought because that's like $13 American.
Cheap at twice the price.
All right. What is your dream farrier rig?
Now, this was when I was traveling more. I always thought it would be cool to have one of those top kicks where it's the larger truck. So you had the sleeper in the back and then like a bay horse body on the back of that.
But not now?
No, now I think I drive my dream farrier rig.
Which is?
It's a 1-ton dually with a body on the back and made by bay horse, both of them. And they're set up exactly the same. So everything's where I expect it to be, kind of thing. And
cool.
Yeah. No, they're very nice and easy to work out of.
So whether it's Emma or Esmeralda, it doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah. She'll be where I left her.
All right. Your favorite rounding hammer?
Derek Gardner.
Yeah. They thump, don't they?
Yeah.
Your favorite type of bar stock to work with?
I would have said originally 3/4 by 3/8, but I'm learning to fall in love with the 1 by 3/8.
Okay. Yeah, the Amish get married, kind of assigned their marriages, and they learn to love their spouse.
Yeah, I think that might be the situation here.
Yeah, love. It's not a feeling you fall into. It is a verb, right? You learn to love.
Yeah.
Okay, your favorite pastime after work? I would have not expected to stump you at all with these questions.
I know, and Daniel did too. I just don't. Yeah, it's so much easier to ask other people. Right now, it's Hannah and I have been renovating our place, and
every time I talk to you, you're putting in a stove.
Yeah,
you've been putting in this.
That's been a long project.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that's been a really kind of fun project.
So renovation.
Yeah, sure. And hiking.
I have said the DIY channel is the worst things that happen to males. That you watch them, they'll renovate a bathroom in an hour. And so pretty soon your wife's tearing floors up and you're like, oh my gosh.
And it doesn't go back together in an hour.
Oh my. The next thing on your bucket list.
AW.
Yeah. That's not talking about the root beer stands. He's talking about the associateship with the Worshipful Company of Farriers, the AWCF exam.
I'm glad you cleared that out.
A&W, I gotta have a root beer before I die.
I keep my goals low and then I'm not disappointed.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said for that. Your favorite brand of keg shoe?
Workman.
But we were going off Kirkhart sizing earlier.
That's right. Yeah, I know. That's what I started with.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's kind of, I feel like most people base it off of that.
And does Workman sizing compare?
It's close. In the Warriors, they're about a half size larger.
The ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
4 to 5.
Yep. Your favorite anvil?
And Emerson.
And by the name of Esmeralda?
All of them. I like them all for their different qualities.
Okay. All right. Your favorite inspirational quote?
So we kind of said it earlier. My favorite series is Justified. And in it, the antagonist, Boyd Crowder, he has this line where he says, remember your ABCs, always be cool. So I like that one.
Yeah, that is good. Do you have a farrier terrier?
Yes, I do. Buster.
And what is Buster?
Part panda, and I don't know what else.
Part panda?
Oh, yeah. If you see pictures of him, you'll understand. But,
okay.
Yeah, he's been with me over a decade.
Oh, man. That's rough.
Yeah.
When they start getting, that age where you're like worried.
Yeah.
If you're stumped on a case or need a backup, who do you call?
I have a large network of folks to call, both farriers and vets. So I'm really fortunate to.
So without naming some to offend,
to offend others, but yeah, I have a really great network of people I can chat with.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for mystery lameness?
Yeah, I shoe a lot of jumpers and hunters and pads with a pour in. Leather pads and a soft pour-in seems to.
And open heel shoe or bar shoe?
In an open heel shoe.
Okay, so just a Warrior, pre-clipped, out of the box, burned on, and padded up, and.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. And what do you use for your planner or agenda?
Handwritten. I keep trying other methods.
They suck, don't
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
they? Yeah, I think in 50 years, there'll still be some of us are handwriting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And your favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
Hot tub.
Hot tub.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you sit in one every night just about?
Either at night or in the morning.
In the morning between...
Sometimes I'll make it part. That was one of the routines that I've lost and would like to get back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite drink?
I really like coffee. And if we're talking an alcoholic beverage, it would be a Moscow Mule.
Well, Moscow Mule may not be that popular now with the whole Russian...
Yeah,
Ukraine
no
thing.
kidding. Yeah, I should really change that.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Your favorite genre of music?
All of them.
All of them. Nothing you don't like.
There's some stuff I don't like, but it's rare. I usually, there's a lot of stuff I like, and Allie will tell you, well, there's a lot of strange stuff I like too.
Okay. Do you work out?
No.
But you want to.
Yeah.
So you're working on wanting to work out.
Working
All right. We're working up
Exactly.
to it. Do you meditate?
Yes.
Oh yeah, often.
That was another routine that fell by the wayside that I'm picking back up again.
So
But-
if you don't mind my asking, why are all these routines falling by the wayside? Is there something changed?
I kind of took on too much for a period there and had to regain some sleep and recuperate. So I wasn't getting up as early and trying not to go to bed as late.
Okay. And what would you have been if not a farrier?
Probably something in music or recording.
Okay. So you're really that's a big part of your life still.
Yeah.
Is music.
Yeah. His music. Yeah. The recording, it would take so much time. And so it hasn't been, but yeah.
All right. Well, I tell you what, young man, that has been a real pleasure for me. This is my first time to ever host a podcast, and I'm not even hosting a podcast on my podcast.
Well, there's one other question. It isn't on that list, but it's who would you want to be stuck with?
Oh, the COVID
And-
question.
Yeah.
All right.
And there are 3 people that I could think of right now and it would be you, Cody, and Daniel Bennett.
Well, there you go. So as per the rest of his questions, there's 3 answers.
See, I haven't learned to prioritize.
Well, Brian, it has been a real pleasure. As always, we love having you down here in the Heartland. And for me, this has been a singular pleasure to actually ask you these questions and do a podcast.
It's an honor to be able to do this. And thank you for making me nervous every time we spoke leading up to this.
All right. You guys, God bless, and hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks. Take care.